What's up, guys? Before I start this video, I just want to say I hope you're having a great day and I hope you guys are doing well. If you watched the last week's video of the best bets video where I gave out my lock of the week and my most confident picks, my two most confident locks of the week, the two parlays I gave out hit, which I'm very happy to say, and I'm really happy about that. So today we're gonna go over UFC Abu Dhabi, which is Whittaker versus Reinier, and I made some new graphics for this fight. I'm excited to share it. So, starting with the first fight, we're gonna go with Damon Blackshear versus Davey Grant. My pick is going to be Damon Blackshear because it's what the logical person should do. You know, he looked really good in his last fight. The past three fights have been dominant wins. He's 30 years old fighting a 39-year-old, but if you're gonna bet on Damon Blackshear here, I think it could be sweaty. I see it being competitive. I can see this fight playing out closely. You know, something funny about Damon Blackshear, if you guys didn't know, he actually has a loss to Chris Matinho back in 2018, which is crazy to think about considering how both of their careers have turned out, but Chris Matinho, he just comes into the UFC now to be brought in as a lamb to slaughter to make others look good in the UFC. But Damon Blackshear, he's actually gone to have a nice win streak in the UFC, three win streaks in a row right now. And in the UFC, Damon has only lost to really good opposition like Montel Jackson, Mario Bautista, and Farid Basharat. You know, the good Basharat brother. And we have Davey Grant, who's almost 40 years old, but he does fight like a dog. I think Damon's striking has leveled up very significantly, and I think he will be able to outstrike Davey Grant in this matchup. But I don't think he's going to have the power advantage here. I think Davey Grant might actually still hold more power than Damon Blackshear, because Damon Blackshear, he might outvolume Davey Grant and outstrike him. But I think Davey Grant's power can have more of an impact on Damon Blackshear. But out of the two, I do see Damon Blackshear being more technical. I think Davey Grant will try to land his power shots, but I can see Damon being cleaner on the feet, striking from range, being longer, taller, and on the ground. You know, Damon has 11 subs on his record and only 2 knockouts. If this fight makes it to the ground, I think Damon Blackshear will be in cruise control. I think it's going to be a good fight, but Damon Blackshear, I can see him landing more, and I can see him being more in control of the clinch and the grappling exchanges. So I think he's going to be able to use his technicality. He's going to be tall. He's going to be a rangy striker. He has 11 subs, so if it hits the ground, it should be safe. Plus, he's on a 3-fight win streak right now. He's been looking really good. He's fighting a 40-year-old, nearly 40-year-old Davey Grant. And yeah, Davey Grant's going to be tough. He has power. And he's always game every time he fights, right? But Damon Blackshear, just 9 years younger, going to be more technical, and he's super dangerous on the ground. So that's why I'm picking Damon Blackshear. Next fight, we do have the next fight on the card. A featherweight matchup. Muhammad Yahya versus Steven Nguyen. I'm going to say Nguyen. That's how I'm going to pronounce that. So my pick is going to be Steven Nguyen. I'm going with Steven Nguyen. I want to talk about, obviously you can see none of them have a win in the UFC yet. So someone's O has got to go, right? So Muhammad Yahya, he was on a 5-fight win streak, which is what got him into the UFC. But those guys that he beat, they're just not impressive victories. Somehow he managed to scrap up those 5 wins, and he got into the UFC and goes on to lose his first and only 2 fights that he has in the UFC. And he looks to get his first win here versus Steven Nguyen. And we have Steven, who got into the octagon through the Contender Series. He won a decision the first time, and then they brought him back, coming again into the Contender Series to win by TKO against AJ Cunningham, which is not a bad victory. But then he loses his UFC debut to someone who went 1-3 in the UFC and then got cut. So obviously, both guys they're not going to be fighting for a UFC title probably anytime soon or ever. I see this as two journeymen going at it, and I just think Steven will have more athleticism. I think he has more potential as a UFC fighter. And thing about Mohamad Yahya, he likes to strike, but he doesn't find much success in doing so. Whereas Steven is more well rounded as a fighter, and in his loss in his debut, he still came forward. He put up a good scrap. He's a dog, and I think that will help him out in this matchup. So, you got Yahya 0-2 in the UFC. He's striking is primarily what he looks for in his fights, but he just has low success rate in doing so. Where you have Steven, who's more athletic, well rounded, and he's durable. So I just think Steven has more potential, and he's has a better all rounded game to him. So that's why I'm picking Steven to win this featherweight matchup. Next up on the card, we have Martin Buday versus Marcus Almeida. My pick is Marcus Almeida in this matchup. It's his UFC debut. I think he's gonna do okay versus Martin Buday. Martin Buday, he's 6-1 in the UFC, and that loss is to Shamil Gaziev, who's a pretty good fighter at heavyweight. But the thing is, those 6 wins, they don't mean much because those 6 fighters, they're not even real people. They're like the worst the UFC has to offer in the heavyweight division. So that just tells me that Martin Buday is just above average when it comes to fighting in the UFC so far. But he got a TKO'd by a good fighter. In his last fight, he gave Yurin Satibelikdov his first loss, some fighter who was making his debut, just like Marcus Almeida, and then he spoiled his UFC debut by giving him his first loss. He was an undefeated fighter coming into the UFC. And Martin Buday's game plan was to come forward and bang. He tries to get the knockout. He puts pressure on you, but now he's fighting another UFC fighter making his UFC debut in Marcus Almeida. And I think Marcus can actually get this done. Marcus is nothing like those 6 guys that Martin Buday fought in the UFC. This kid, Marcus, this 35-year-old kid, Marcus, he seems like he actually has potential to be good in the UFC. And I put Marcus a step up above of all 6 of Martin Buday's opponents he beat in the UFC. And when you look at his record, yeah, he doesn't have the most notable wins, but he did beat someone that is worth noting. I forgot who it was, but he beat someone that I was like, okay, that's an impressive victory to have if you're Marcus Almeida. So this guy Marcus, he doesn't just come forward and try to knock you out like Martin Buday does. Marcus actually has a game plan to grapple. He wants to take you down, and he's very strong in doing so. And of course, Marcus is still unproven in the UFC. And like I said, the opponents that he beat aren't UFC level. But styles make fights, and I think Marcus has the style to neutralize the striking of Martin Buday with his wrestling. So I'm gonna go with um, Martin Buday to get this one done. I mean, not Martin Buday to get this one done. I'm picking Marcus Almeida to get this one done. Buday, he's on a 6. He has 6 UFC wins, but they're against low-level competition. And Almeida, he's a very strong grappler. He has a smart game plan, and he has good control. So, in a better stylistic matchup for him, I think he can neutralize Buday's striking. Next fight on the card, we have an exciting bout, which is going to be Asu Almabayev versus Jose Ochoa. I'm very excited for this matchup. My pick is going to be Jose Ochoa. I actually think this kid, he's sick. Like, I'm going Jose Ochoa. This kid is actually really good. Like, his striking really impressed me, right? In his last fight, he's taking this fight on short notice, but not too much of a short notice. I think just a couple weeks, short notice. But I believe in him. I believe in him in this matchup. His striking, it looked great versus Cody Durden. His takedown defense held up pretty nicely, and he just has power in his strikes. I think the difference, the power difference, will be evident here. You know, Jose can take Asu's strikes, but Asu won't be able to take Jose's strikes, which means Asu will need to get this fight on the ground, but I don't think he will have much success in doing so. And Jose is long and tall, and he's hard to take down. He's fast and he's slick, and he comes forward with pressure, kind of like how the gym he comes from. That's kind of what they're known for. Those pressure heavy boxing style. They come forward and they try to rip your head off, and they don't really back down from the shoot to box gym. And he comes forward. I see him eating Asu alive in this matchup. I think Asu he'll definitely have obviously more UFC experience, being 4-1 in the UFC, while Jose only being 1-1 in the UFC. But I actually think Jose is better than anyone that Asu has beat in the UFC. So both of them, they've lost to really good competition. Jose, he just lost to Loner Kavanagh, which I see being at the top of the division soon enough, and Asu only losing to Manel Kopp, someone who's supposed to fight for the con- number one contender spot, right? And the difference in between their losses is that Jose lost by decision and Asu got TKO'd by a very strong striker. And Jose is long and strong and he hits hard. And I think there's going to be a durability difference here. And the difference in managing distance and, of course, the strength and the power in their strikes is going to favor Jose heavily in this matchup. So, Jose being 7 years younger, taller, and just so hungry, I see him getting this one done by knockout. There's something in his eyes. Some people just have it, and he just like in demon mode anytime he's locked into the cage. So, I really believe he can get this one done. You can't count out the fact that Asu has the UFC experience, being 4-1. He has really good grappling. But Jose Ochoa, he's an explosive striker. The power advantage is going to be on his side, and he's super hungry for a win. And I think he's so locked in anytime he's into inside the octagon. So the pick is Jose Ochoa. I think the striking power and the youth edge is going to help him out massively in this fight. Next fight on the card, we have Ibo Aslan versus Billy Elekana. My pick is going to be Ibo Aslan to win this fight. This guy, Ibo Aslan, I really like his striking. His power and his accuracy, it's just on a whole other level. And Ibo is 2-1 in the UFC, and Billy is 0-1 in the UFC, losing his debut, which he did take on a couple days' notice, right? So you can't really judge him based on that performance. He gassed really fast right after the first round, and so we really don't know what to expect from Billy here with a full training camp. But if this fight stays on the feet like I think it will, this is Ibo Aslan all day. All 14 of Ibo's wins on his record come from knockout. He's never gone to the distance. The only two times he's lost are by submission, and Billy isn't really a submission threat. Billy only has one win by sub on his record. You know, Billy, he might try to go for a takedown like he did in his UFC debut, where he was able to take down Bogdan Guskov in his UFC debut, and he almost submitted him. He almost got the win, but I don't think it's going to be that easy to take Ibo down for Billy Elekana. I think that the takedown he got on Bogdan, he kind of caught Bogdan by surprise. And I don't think Bogdan was expecting Billy Ikana to go for the takedown, which is why he kind of just folded into getting taken down. But I think Ibo, he'll be expecting the takedown. And considering he was taken down, Ibo Azan was taken down and submitted in his last fight, I think he's going to be more aware of the takedown coming forward. And I actually think Billy wants this fight on the feet. I think Billy actually wants to strike and he prefers to strike. I think he's more of a striker, which isn't going to help him out in this fight because I think Ibo has a lot more power and it's going to help him be winning this fight, right? And I think Ibo is also more accurate with his power. So you talking about Billy, he only has 3 knockouts and 1 submission. And if the submission threat coming towards Ebo isn't going to be alarming, if it's not something he has to be cautious of, Ebo is just the better, more aggressive power puncher. I can see Ebo getting a knockout, especially after losing his last fight by submission. He'll be very hungry for a finish. And like I said, 14 wins by for from Ebo, and they're all coming from knockout. He's hungry after that loss. And Elekana, he's 0-1 in the UFC. I think he's gonna want to strike, but he's just not as dangerous as Ebo. And I think there's gonna be a massive power difference, and Ebo is likely gonna get a knockout in this matchup. Next fight on the card, we have Muslim Salikhov versus Carlos Leal. I'm picking Carlos Leal to win this fight. Okay, so I actually have a theory about this fight, right? So the last time Carlos Leal fought someone of the Muslim religion, he beat him up, and then he got robbed by the judges in that fight. So I really think Carlos is coming to fight this guy, right? Also, besides that, I think the elusiveness difference here, the athleticism difference here, the hunger difference, the durability, I think it'll be a significant difference. I like the way Carlos moves. I like the way he strikes. Coming off of a flawless victory against Alex Morono, he looked really good in his first 2 UFC fights, right? And the thing about Carlos Leal too is that he's never been knocked out before. He's never been finished by knockout or TKO. He's durable as hell. He's built like a tank. Eats shots like it's nothing and continues to press forward and stands in the pocket. He will always outdog you. He's always looking to stand in the pocket and outdog you, and that's what he thrives in. He has been submitted once, but he's fighting someone who's primarily a striker, and not to mention the 10-year age difference. Carlos is 31, fighting an out of prime 41-year-old Muslim Salikhov who has been knocked out twice already in the UFC. Uh, by he got knocked Muslim Salikhov knocked out by the Leech, uh, Jingling Young. I just know him by the Leech, and he also got knocked out by Randy Brown. He is coming off of a win, beating Kenan Song, which isn't too impressive, and he did beat Santiago Ponzinibbio in a very close fight where you could argue Ponzinibbio could have won that fight. But I do think this fight remains standing on the feet. I can see Carlos Leal landing the more effective strikes, and we'll just see more output from Leal and heavier strikes landing coming from Leal's side. But this fight is in Abu Dhabi, and the last time Carlos Leal fought here, he got robbed. So be aware. But I do think he gets the job done here. Excuse me. Considering Muslim Salikhov is 41 years old, and he has 2 knockout losses already in the UFC. You have Leal, who isn't gonna back down. He's durable and he's aggressive. I see him having better output, and he's never been knocked out before. He's super durable. So I just think the youth here, Carlos Leal is he's in his prime, 31 years old, versus an out of prime, 41 years old. Carlos Leal is gonna be the tougher fighter. He's gonna put up a better pace, and he's gonna land the better shots. So I'm taking Carlos Leal to win this fight. Next fight on the card, we have Amanda Ribas versus Tabatha Ricci. I flip flop a lot back and forth between this fight, but I'm gonna stick with Amanda Ribas to win this fight. Tabatha Ricci, though, her only 3 losses on her record are to really good high level competition. Zhao Yan via split decision, Lupita Godinez versus via split decision, and Manon Fino via TKO, which they're not bad losses to have, right? Whereas Amanda Ribas, lately she hasn't really looked good, coming off of back-to-back losses to Mackenzie Dern and Rose Namajunas. Ribas is a good fighter. I like her as a fighter. This should be a good fight. I'm gonna take Amanda Ribas because she's due for a win. She was alternating wins and losses for like 6, 7 fights in a row, and then she got back-to-back losses in her last 2 fights. So I think she's due for a win here. I just, I don't like the way Tabatha Ricci looks when she loses her fights. When she wins, she looks good because the competition level isn't as high. But when she loses, she really looks like, yeah, it wasn't even like a close fight. It really looks like she lost that fight. Whereas Amanda, she's a good fighter, and I don't think Tabatha is gonna be able to look good or dominant against her. And when Amanda Ribas loses, she still looks like she's a good fighter. She still looks like she's putting up a fight and it's competitive. And I'm more impressed with who Amanda has beaten than with who Tabatha has beaten. So it'll be a good fight. Overall, I just think Amanda here, she's more well rounded, and I think she's due for a win and she's hungry for a win too. Where I can see Tabatha, she's gonna try to take her down, but I just think Tabatha, I just think Amanda, she can handle that. Maybe reverse position if she has to, but I can see Amanda outstriking her and keeping it on the feet. None of these ladies are going to have a dominant performance over the other. So if anything, just go with whoever ends up being the underdog in this fight. Because I still don't know who the favorite or the underdog is yet when I'm recording this. So I'm going with Amanda Ribas. She's gonna be more well rounded, and she's tested against elite names, right? And she looks good against them. Where Ricci, I just think she's gonna have a game plan of trying to take down Amanda Ribas. I don't think she's gonna be successful in doing so, and she doesn't look as impressive when she's fighting top level names, you know. So I think Amanda Ribas is going to be the cleaner striker, and I was gonna say she has the experience, the vet experience, but 12 fights in the UFC with nine, they're both pretty well tested. But I'm sticking with Amanda Ribas. I need to calm down. All right. Next fight on the card, we have a light heavyweight matchup: Nikita Krylov versus Bogdan Guskov. My pick for this fight, I'm going Nikita Krylov to win this fight. We have Bogdan Guskov, who's 3-1 in the UFC, and you have Nikita, who's 5-5 in the UFC. Nikita, he just got knocked out by Dominic Reyes, but that's the 2.0 version of Dominic Reyes, who's on his revenge arc and beating everyone in his way. He's coming back with vengeance. You have Bogdan, who he hasn't really beat anyone worth talking about. No one really worth mentioning. His three wins are to guys that his three wins in the UFC are to guys that aren't top level. He did beat Ryan Spann, who's I guess it's a decent win to have early in your UFC career, but that's not even really worth talking about. And one of his losses is just someone who's actually been at the top of the division, Volkan Ozdemir, and he lost that fight in the first round. So I think Nikita, he'll have more experience here. He'll have more hunger for a win, but there's something about Bogdan that kind of scares me. He's just look at his eyes. He's bald and he looks so locked in. He's like the type of guy to lose his first UFC fight and then go on a massive run in the UFC. If he beats Nikita, then he really is that guy. But right now, I just think I'm gonna use my logical brain and I'm gonna think logically about this, and I'm gonna go with Nikita, who just seems like the better, all well-rounded fighter with more experience and more tools to win. Because Bogdan, he's still very unproven, and he fought someone who's been at the top, and he didn't do too well versus Volkan Ozdemir. And you have Nikita, who's a veteran right now, and he just has more tools and is a better ground game, I think. And I think Nikita's experience and skill edge is going to be the difference maker here. So I'm going Nikita to win this fight. Next fight on the card, we have Sharabutdin Magomedov versus Marc-Andre Barriault. My pick is going to be Shara Bullet to win this fight, but personally, I never thought Shara Bullet was that guy. I knew MVP would dominate that fight with Shara Bullet. I just I just never thought that, oh wow, this guy is gonna be the next big thing. I think he was very hyped up because of the fact that he only had one eye. It kind of gave him that aura, and he's going on a run, but I never saw I never thought that he was the next big thing, you know? I was just never sold on him. I'm still not sold on him, but if he beats Marc-Andre Barriault dominantly and then he goes on another run in the UFC, maybe he'll start to convince me that he's actually that guy, but I don't know if he's that guy to climb the division and then win the title right now. I mean, he was calling out Adesanya, and I think Adesanya would probably piece him up like right now. But will he beat Marc-Andre Barriault? I think he will. I like Marc-Andre as a fighter. I think he's decent, and I'm just saying, I think the fight, it could be a betting trap. I can actually see Marc-Andre landing some shots in this fight. I mean, Shara, he only has one eye, right? But I'm going with Shara because he has the tools to beat Marc-Andre, and I imagine he's improved from the MVP fight, which was just a bad stylistic matchup for him. And I think right now he's hungry to take out a journeyman like Marc-Andre Barriault. I imagine he stays on the outside. He picks Marc-Andre apart. But personally, I'm staying away from this fight betting wise because I was just never sold on Sharabutdin and Marc-Andre. He just has a lot of experience in the UFC right now, and Shara, he needs more dominant performances before we start hyping him up, and just more dominant performances on tested guys who've been in the UFC, like Marc-Andre Barriault. If he beats him dominantly, then you can start seeing, and then he goes on to beat more guys, goes on a little win streak. Then okay, he starts to make a name for himself again. But I'm still not sold on him. But essentially, I'm gonna pick him because Shara, he's not gonna get knocked out from Marc-Andre's shots. He's very durable. Whereas if Shara lands something big or stacks up volume on Marc-Andre, he can eventually break him down. I do think this fight will be more competitive than the odds suggest, but I can see Shara winning this fight. And if he does it dominantly, then maybe he can start calling out these bigger names again. But until then, he has to prove himself, in my opinion. Plus, you have to keep in mind it's in Abu Dhabi, meaning this fight is built for Shara to win. So if it goes to the judges, you can safely assume Shara is gonna get the nod, that he's gonna have the crowd and judges on his side. So I just think Shara's gonna have the durability advantage here. He's a flashy striker. He's gonna be hungry after his first loss in his career. And Marc Andre, he's a solid fighter. I think he's a good solid fighter. He's a good test, but he's hittable. He he is very chinny right now, so I just think the impact from Shara Bullet is gonna have more effect on Marc Andre, and Shara's gonna be durable enough to eat Marc Andre's shots. So I think it's gonna be striker versus striker. Shara Bullet should be the better striker, and it's built for him to win. You know, and especially fighting in Abu Dhabi in an Abu Dhabi crowd. Next fight on the card. Moving on, we have Bryce Mitchell versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. I'm gonna pick Saeed Nurmagomedov to win this fight. We have Bryce Mitchell moving down from featherweight, making his bantamweight debut versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. I'm gonna go Saeed Nurmagomedov because I think his striking is going to be a lot better than Bryce's, and I think Bryce, he's going to have to get this fight on the ground. I see Saeed throwing hard leg kicks, moving around the cage, sniping Bryce from the outside, winning this fight by decision. Bryce is going to be looking for the takedowns. He might get him down, but I think the damage will come more from Saeed. And remember, this fight is in Abu Dhabi, so judges and the crowd are going to favor Saeed here. When he lands, they're going to be rooting him, which could persuade the judging. So you also have to keep in mind that Saeed has never been finished in his career, so you know if it hits the judges' scorecards, things could get controversial, even if Saeed wasn't dominating the fight. I just think Bryce, he will be able to get him down eventually, but I don't think Saeed is going to just accept the bottom position. I can see Saeed scrambling or reversing position or going back up and piecing him up on the feet again. And the thing about this fight is we really don't know how the weight cut is going to affect Bryce because this is his first time cutting that 10 extra pounds. And that could be a big deal for him. It might even affect his chin as well. So I think Saeed, he's more comfortable in this weight class. He's got experience here and he's more tested in this weight class. I would say he's more what's the word, comfortable in this weight class. Sure, he's more adapted to this weight cut. So I just think Saeed as well is just striking. He just has fast kicks. He's very elusive. He's gonna be able to scramble well. Mitchell debuting in at bantamweight, and he needs the takedowns to win this fight. And typically in those matchups where you need to win the fight by getting the takedowns, doesn't usually end up well. You're gonna get stuffed. You're gonna get picked apart on the feet. So I just think Said Nurmagomedov, he has the better striking, and it's gonna be a suspect weight cut for Bryce. So I'm going Said to win this fight. Next fight on the card, we have Marcus McGhee versus Petr Yan. I'm gonna go Marcus McGhee to win this fight. I'm going Marcus McGhee all day. I'm a huge Marcus McGhee fan. He's legit my favorite UFC fighter, so keep that in mind before I start glazing him. But I'm I'm really happy for him. He has this opportunity to showcase his skills against someone on the level of Petr Yan. I think he's going to land the heavier shots. I think he's going to outdog Petr Yan. I'm a huge fan of Marcus McGhee striking. I think it's legit. His only loss is by submission, right? But on the feet, this guy has beautiful striking, and it's such a fun matchup to see him, to be able to see him fight Petr Yan. And with Marcus McGhee, in his last fight, he fought someone with really good leg kicks and Jonathan Martinez, and he won the fight. Now he's fighting someone who's a black belt in boxing. And I think Marcus McGhee striking is a problem for anyone. And I can see him cracking Petr Yan with some really nice shots. This is going to be a striker versus striker matchup, and I'm just such a huge fan of McGee's striking. I think the way he moves, the way he sets up his shots, I think it's really high level stuff, and I don't think Petr Yan can handle it. It will be a good competitive fight, of course, that will most likely go the distance. I see Petr Yan taking him with a jab, maybe a good 1-2 here and there, but I think McGee's gonna be popping his head back, throwing nice body shots, ripping nice body shots with his punches as well. He's gonna be throwing leg kicks, and I see McGhee overwhelming him with strikes, powerful strikes. And I think if Petr Yan wants to take him down, it'll be tough to take down someone like Marcus McGhee. He's gonna be thick. He has a solid base, so I'm gonna go Marcus McGhee to edge this one out with his crisp striking. He's gonna be durable. And he's very powerful. And Petr Yan, yes, he's an elite boxer, but I don't think he's as good as Marcus McGhee. I'm just such a huge believer in Marcus McGhee. I really like his striking, and I think he's gonna have the higher output here. And I think whose shots is gonna be having a more of an effect is going to be Marcus McGhee. Should be a good fight though. Next fight on the card we have Robert Whittaker versus Reinier de Ridder. I'm gonna go with. Wait, my thing is glitching. Hold on. There you go. That's better. So Robert Whittaker versus Reinier de Ridder. My pick for this fight is going to be. Hold on. It still doesn't look quite right for some reason. I gotta fix something. There we go. That makes. I fixed it. All right. So we have Robert Whittaker fighting Reinier de Ridder. I'm gonna go with. Wait, it just keeps glitching. I don't know why it's doing this. All right, there we go. My pick for this fight is gonna be Reindeer to win this fight. I'm gonna go Reindeer. All right, I'm going Reindeer to win this fight. I think RDR, he's just so big. He's so powerful. This is obviously a major step up in competition for RDR. I mean, beating Robert Whittaker, that would be a very, very solid win for him. Since 2014, Robert Whittaker has only lost to the greatest in his division, which is Israel Adesanya, DDP, Dricus du Plessis, and Hamzat Chimaev. And that's since 2014, so those guys are literally at the top of the division. But I just think RDR right now, he just seems so powerful lately, and the way he's controlling the clinch in his last fight, the way he was dictating where the fight goes, I just thought it was very impressive. The thing is, the only time Robert Whittaker has fought someone this tall, 6'4", was Israel Adesanya, and he lost twice, getting dominated both times. And I actually didn't find another time where Robert Whittaker was fighting someone this much taller than him. There was Hamzat Chimaev, who was 6'2", and we saw how that ended up going. Of course, RDR doesn't have the same striking level as a prime Adesanya, who beat Robert Whittaker, but I think Robert, he might actually have a hard time fighting someone who's significantly bigger than him. There is a chance that Reinier is going to be too strong, too big, too powerful for him. And of course, RDR has not fought the same level as competition as Robert. You know, Robert has been at the top of the division fighting there for so long. But at the same time, Reindeer, he has momentum right now. He's the new kid on the block. He's the new shiny toy that everyone wants to play with. He's the guy who's on the rise, who has so much potential right now. And he talks with so much confidence and he truly believes in himself. He was a champion at 1FC, but of course at 1FC, I got to bring up the fact that RDR took that loss at 1FC versus Anthony Malachi, someone who's smaller than him, even smaller than Robert Whittaker by an inch. He got knocked out in the first, and then he basically quit in the rematch in a decently competitive fight in the rematch. But that Maliki guy that beat RDR at 1FC, that guy is jacked, and he's so wide, and he's so muscular, and he's hard to control someone like that. That guy, he was a very heavy pressure boxer who carries some serious knockout power, who walks you down, throws every strike, trying to take your head off. And RDR tried his best to control him up against the cage, but it's very hard controlling someone who's so muscular and wide like that, then having to worry about the knockout when you're standing in front of him. I don't think Robert is going to walk him down like that. I think it'll I think it won't be as difficult to hold and control RDR or hold and control Robert for RDR. I think RDR is gonna have an easier time controlling Robert Whittaker than he did fighting that Maliki guy. So as also, there's a chance that RDR is at a point now where he understands how to use his size to his advantage, and he could very well smother Robert Whittaker. There's a chance that Robert just doesn't do well against guys who are just so much bigger than him. And that's a theory that I think could be true. I can see RDR taking him into deep waters in the clinch. I can see him closing the distance on him, not getting hit from the outside, trading strikes with him if he wants, and landing nice shots as well. Robert, he's going to want to keep this on the outside. He's going to want to pick him apart, but I think he's going to have a hard time landing on RDR. So, I mean, this could be a bad pick. You know, Robert Whittaker, his only losses are to the absolute greatest in the world, the only people who are the very best in his division, right? And he's so game when he fights. He's so locked in. But my gut is telling me Reinier could win this fight. He can pull this off. So I'm gonna go with Reinier to win this fight. That sums up my picks. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments section down below, whether you agree or disagree, if you thought they were the worst picks you've ever heard or what. So I hope you guys enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you guys in the best bets video where my two most confident picks last week hit. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm not saying I'm going to get every single one correct, but watch out for that because I might. Anyways, take care of yourselves, guys. That's it for me, and have a good one. Peace.